We are entering the most intense part of 2023. So buckle up and get ready for the ride. What I expect is that October is going to be a very important month. We're going to see a lot of intense energies. There's some mega important karmic transits that are happening. We're going to discuss all of those in this video. And then what's going to be happening in November is also going to be intense. So I expect October and November to be the flashpoints for 2023. So I feel like this year is pretty much going to end with a bang or a crescendo. So if you're new to my channel, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to pull up the slide here. By the way, I practice sidereal Vedic astrology. So it's not Western tropical astrology. Your sign might be different in this astrology. We used different looking charts if you check out some of my other videos. My goal is 10,000 subscribers. I'm hoping to get there. So, of course, all of you help me get there by subscribing. Also, if you're interested in a personal private reading, check for details down below. I'm doing a special Halloween discount for the month of October. So this should be pretty fun. Of course, I'm going to be watching a lot of scary movies this month, and I hope all of you enjoy this month as well. Okay, so let's talk about what's going to be happening for the month of October. Like I said, this month has some really powerful transits that are happening that rarely occur. So, for example, Rahu and Ketu are changing signs in October, and that only happens every 18 months, every year and a half. So, that's a really big deal. And also, we have eclipses in October. So this is a really intense energy. So let's go ahead and take a look at the slide so you all can write these down in your calendar. So here's the October highlights. Now, for the whole month of October, what I want you to be aware of is Saturn is retrograde, if you remember. It's been retrograde for the last 4 or 5 months now. And Saturn is slowing down for the whole month of October, and it's about 6 degrees of Aquarius. It's going retrograde. It's slowing down. It's gonna stay literally. It's almost so slow. It's almost coming to a stop. Okay, it's gonna travel very little of a distance. Okay, so when it does that, when it's slowing down and it's just at that same degree at 6 or 7 degrees of Aquarius, it becomes extremely powerful because the energy is just staying in that one point. And on November 3rd, it's actually going to end up going direct. Okay. And that's going to be a very powerful day. But we're going to feel the whole Saturn stationing. Literally, we're going to be feeling that for the whole month of October because it's slowing down for the whole month. If you check out some of my previous videos, I talk about how it's slowing down. If you look at the USA chart, right over the USA moon in the USA natal chart. And this is called Sadi Sati. So the fact that Saturn is just camping out right over the USA moon, which is known as a very inauspicious transit. Sadi Sati is known as great difficulty. You know, a lot of people say we are in a silent depression of some sort with the cost of living crisis. Well, you know, this Sadi Sati happening over in the USA chart would definitely support that hypothesis that we're maybe in this silent depression where people can't afford rent their mortgage anymore, and it's getting more and more difficult to live. Well, this is definitely a time of difficulty, okay, for the whole country and most likely the whole world, because we're all so interconnected in this world now. So that Saturn slowdown is just going to be flavoring the whole month. So Saturn represents heavy karma. So that karma is really being highlighted right now. Now, October 5th, right in the first week, we're going to have also another important powerful transit, Mars and K2 conjunction. This is going to be happening in the sign of Libra. So K2 is about to leave Libra and go into the sign of Virgo on October 30th. So this is in the last few degrees of Libra. Mars and K2 are both very destructive planets. So Mars is known as, it's a planet of war, but it destroys things. And K2 also destroys or chops or breaks apart things as well. So it's like these two powerful malefic planets coming together in this really powerful destructive kind of force that's happening in the sign of Libra. And it's interesting that Libra, it represents balance. It represents the scales of justice. It represents the natural seventh house. So I'm feeling like there's something about to happen this month in the month of October. There may be some sort of injustice exposed because there's underlying issues that are happening in the collective right now. So this is being exposed. This injustice is being exposed. Everyone's really feeling this sense of injustice. They're not happy about it. And Mars and Ketu are coming in there and kind of setting things off. So, for example, with Mars and Ketu in the sign of Libra, there might be difficulty with nations coming up with diplomacy, coming in with peace treaties and things like that. It might be a very difficult time, and you might even see internationally that old alliances are falling apart because of Mars and Ketu being in the sign of Libra. So, the international order, when we think of this new multipolar order that's being talked about, maybe this is what we're starting to see this month, is more of this international chessboard that's moving around. There's loss of agreement. Mars and Ketu are destroying that sense of agreement. Okay. Now, I also told you that we're moving on now. For the month of October, it's eclipse season. And those of you know that whenever we're in eclipse season, that's very powerful energies for the month. Okay. So usually the most intense portions of eclipse season are going to be within that 30-day window before the eclipse and 30 days after eclipse. That's usually the most powerful energies. Okay. So once these eclipses happen, it's almost like there's a countdown. Okay. But even karmically, they affect the next 6 months until the next eclipse season. So you really want to know where are these eclipses happening in your individual chart, because that's going to be an important a phase of karma that's manifesting over the next 6 months. So the solar eclipse is happening October 14th. It's a full solar eclipse. So this one's going to be very powerful. The lunar eclipse is a partial eclipse, so it's not as powerful. But let's talk about these. What's interesting is the solar eclipse actually happens in the sign of Virgo, even though K2 is going to be in Libra. The sun and moon are both going to be in Virgo at the time of the eclipse. So that's very interesting. Remember, Virgo represents things like it's the natural sixth house. So it can represent conflict. It can represent even, Virgo can represent things like disease. It can represent things with health and things like that. So I'm really worried about this month. And then Virgo's also the sixth house of debt. Could we see some sort of debt crisis trigger? That's interesting, though. I found it very interesting that the eclipse is actually happening in Virgo, even though K2 is still in Libra. And what's really interesting is that the solar eclipse is going to be happening in Virgo, and then K2 is entering Virgo right at the end of the month. So could we see something manifest with all this energy happening in the early these degrees of Virgo? Definitely. We could see some sort of crisis. Remember, sixth house and eighth house represent crisis. So that's why I feel like this month and the month of November, we're really going to be on high alert. Just like if you've ever watched Star Trek, I would say we're on red alert now. So this is red alert for October, red alert for November. Okay. This is going to be very intense. We all kind of feel that the economy is it's kind of not feeling that great for everybody. And there is this feeling of like, what gives, when are we going to see some changes? So I feel like that solar eclipse is going to be a potent, powerful energy. You want to look in your own personal chart. I'm going to be making a video for all 12 signs when we have that solar eclipse, just so you can know how it's going to specifically affect you as well. On October 28th, the lunar eclipse is in Aries, which represents new beginnings. This is, essentially, Rahu's right about to leave Aries. So, the eclipse is a partial eclipse. It's not as powerful, but if you think about Aries, it's ruled by Mars. There's this powerful kind of, warlike energy over the whole month. And also there's a sense of new beginnings, but I feel like we're in a time of some destruction right now. So I don't know if those beginnings are naturally are happening just quite yet. So let's talk about October 30th. This is going to be very intense. Okay. So, like I said earlier in the video, October 30th, mark that on your calendar. That is such an important day. You're going to want to mark the eclipses, and you're going to want to mark when Rahu and Ketu change signs. So, let me take it off this because I think you've seen enough of the slide now. But October 30th, when Rahu changes into Pisces and Ketu goes into Virgo, this is a very important time. Remember, Rahu and Ketu represent a karmic axis. So this is a whole new karmic experience unfolding in all of our lives. So this is going to affect you on a personal level. If you need to see where, Ketu and Rahu fall in your personal chart. Also on a collective level, this is going to represent some new karma. Now, I was just watching an interesting Netflix special yesterday, and I wanted to talk about this with this idea of Rahu entering Pisces. Uh, the Netflix special I watched yesterday was something about encounters, and if you've been watching the news, there's been this idea of UFOs or extraterrestrials, and it's been quite a bit in the collective consciousness quite recently. So, those of you that may remember, I grew up, I was born in the 80s, but I grew up primarily in the 90s. So I remember that uh, the shows at the time, they were talking about alien abductions and all sorts of strange things back in the 90s. Well, we kind of see this recurrence of this UFO talk in the last couple of years where they're coming out with these videos officially with these like not TikTok, Tic Tac UFO and all these strange things where it's kind of being officially acknowledged. And what I find interesting about the sign of Pisces, Rahu's entering Pisces. This is going to be a very strange next 18 months. The 12th house, that's what Pisces is. It's the natural 12th house. The 12th house represents mysterious things. It represents things from other worlds. It represents the spirit world. It represents mystic experiences. So I feel like whatever we're going to be experiencing over the next 18 months, there's definitely this feeling of otherworldliness that's happening, of the veil essentially being pulled. Okay. So this is an interesting time. And Rahu is essentially a psychic portal that opens up and the veil is opened while Rahu goes over Pisces. So this is going to be such an interesting time, especially for a lot of you that are spiritual seekers. This is going to be a great time for spiritual insights, spiritual revelations, making contact with different beings that are out there. And so we might see over the next 18 months, maybe even this month, this idea of UFOs and this idea of these other worlds coming more into the collective consciousness. So this is going to be very interesting and in a very bizarre period. Now, K2 is going to be in the sign of Virgo. And so I feel like we are also with that going to be having a lot of heavy karma because K2 is going to be clearing a lot of the negative collective karma that we have had for many decades now. Okay. So if you want to think maybe even the last 18 years, there's kind of like this karmic cleansing happening with K2 going through the Virgo. Remember, K2 is eliminating a lot of that old karma we have. And Virgo represents the sixth house things, disease. It represents war. It represents all of those difficult experiences in life. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned about with K2 being in Virgo. Of course, be careful this fall, because it represents health. There could be, with K2 going through Virgo, there could be something coming up along those lines. Okay. And then we have a world that's not necessarily at peace right now. So we could also see some sort of escalations there with K2 being in a sign of Virgo. So I feel like the energies are going to be very intense for October and November because of the Rahu and K2 just changing signs, the eclipses, and then we're going to have Saturn going direct on November 4th. So that's why I feel like this is going to be the most potent, powerful part of 2023. So I hope that you all have a wonderful October. Let me Know down below what you think about October. What do you think's going to happen? Been hearing a lot of things. I've been seeing a lot of speculation on the internet. Let me know down below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you soon in the next video.